This is Aaron from Deep Dive Discography. I'm talking to Samuel Smith from Artificial Brain. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing okay, thanks. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing real great. So new album, self-titled,
hmm
kicks off with a self-titled song. I mean, gotta love it. What went into making the new album? It's been a little while since the last one.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I guess five years or so, and you know, it a lot went into it. I mean, we've been working on these songs for quite a long time, demoing back and forth and things like that. But really, it was just, there were tons of delays in the recording as well, which is part of the reason it took so long. This was related to the pandemic, we had a lineup change kind of mid recording that isn't reflected on the recording, but still delayed things, some personal things. My apartment burned down.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
you know, yeah, well, a lot went on, and then recording became quite difficult because of the pandemic as well. And we ended up ultimately just recording things at home and sending them to Colin. Also, our drummer moved to Denmark and he got married and had a child. So all the drums were recorded in Denmark at a studio there. So it was a much more complicated process than we're used to. We're quite happy with the results, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the album turned out great. This is the last album with Will on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, you're bringing in Paulo from.
We brought in Paolo for a few shows in the fall. Paolo is on all of our records. He's all of our full lengths. He does guest vocals on all three of them, on three songs each. And he's not joining the band as the full-time singer. There's been some confusion about that.
Yeah,
When we initially made the announcement that Will was leaving the band, we said that Paolo would be coming on to help specifically with those three shows or four shows or whatever it was with Inter Arma. But we haven't made a decision yet as far as who we're going to be moving forward with as a full-time vocalist. Right now, we've been playing shows and touring with Mike Paparo from Inter Arma on vocals.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just nothing specific. But yeah, there definitely was some confusion.
Yeah. I've seen that all over the place. It's I probably should have worded the statement differently, but at any rate, yeah. So we've been playing with Mike from Inter Arma, and we're just kind of experimenting and seeing what the band could potentially become at this point, and seeing what our options are like, and trying out different things and just seeing what might be interesting.
Yeah, and like you said, you've had Paulo on for guest vocals. You've also had a lot of guest vocalists in the past. This time around, you have Mike Browning from Nocturnus AD, and Luke from Gorguts.
Mhm.
What was it like bringing on? I mean, I guess as a whole, was it like bringing on different voices?
It's been amazing that we've been able to bring in all of these different people. I mean, Paolo's been a good friend for a long time, so that's obviously really cool to have him. And he has such a wide variety of sounds that he brings to the table. I mean, these kind of shrill, like pterodactyl screams, and like those gross, like stuttery predator noises that you hear on a lot of his projects. So that's really cool, and he's just a wonderful guy. So it's really great collaborating with him. Of course, on the new one with Mike Browning, as you mentioned, Mike is someone who influenced us a great deal. I mean, when we were talking in the early stages of the band about concepts and ideas that interested us thematically, Nocturnus was a band that came up a lot. And Luke, I mean, the same goes for Luke. We musically, that was more of a touchstone for us, Gorguts. Of course, I mean, you don't play this style of metal without, Gorguts being a big influence, I think. And so, we've had a little bit of a relationship with Luke for years, and it was really gratifying to finally collaborate with him. And I should also mention, just because of you know, Trevor Sternad, who just passed yesterday, was on. We got to collaborate with him on Infrared Horizon.
Yeah.
He got on a track on that, and that's really, I mean, especially now considering everything that's happened, it's really meaningful for us. You know, we're really broken up, obviously, about all of that, and he supported us in tremendous ways and brought us on our first major tour. So yeah, I just wanted to get that in there too.
Yeah, that was actually what I was about to say as well. You did have him on the last album, and he championed the hell out of you guys. I mean, in fairness, that's the whole reason I know you.
Well, that I do like hearing that. I mean, yeah, I don't know where we would be without him. So
Yeah.
just immense gratitude for him.
So with Paulo, if I'm not mistaken, you brought him up to Canada when you played there.
Yeah, so Paolo's done a number of shows with us in the past because of border problems for Will. So every Canadian show we've ever played, I believe, there might be one exception. I'm pretty sure every Canadian show we've ever played has been with Paolo on vocals, and a handful of stateside shows as well. If we were like on a tour and we were just coming from Canada and dipping into like, you know, I don't know, Minnesota or wherever, then Paolo would have been on those shows too. So yeah, he's performed with us quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that one was mostly for me because I saw you guys in Toronto with cattle decapitation. But yeah, on Halloween.
Yeah, the Halloween show we dressed as Twin Peaks characters.
Yeah, that was very unique.
That was a really fun show. And everyone in Revocation dressed as Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. And came out to the Spider-Man theme. And
yeah, that was a really fun night.
That show. Yeah, that was wild.
For your listeners, Paolo dressed up as Josie from Twin Peaks, if any of you are familiar with that character. So he was wearing a very flattering red dress.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I have a picture of it, so I can throw it in here somewhere.
That's great.
So this whole concept with this album and the previous albums, it's all been one overlying concept. Mm-hmm. It's been a progressing story. Are you able to touch on basically where it started and where it's going with this one, or even ending with this one?
Well, I mean, I can't speak too much about the lyrical content because you know, they're not my lyrics, and I don't want to speak too much for Will as far as his ideas about the mythology there. But I will say that, like, I think you know, the way it developed for us, Labyrinth was, you know, Labyrinth being our first full length, we were kind of throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and just kind of trying things out. And then I think, you know, you see on that album cover, there are robots and aliens, and the album title is really about space, and the band title is about, you know, AI and these more grounded kinds of sci-fi ideas, right? So so we felt coming into the second record that we wanted to make something that was a little more unified. And so at that point, I think Will started taking a lot of the ideas he was working with on Labyrinth and incorporating them into a larger mythology. It wasn't something that we like set out to do from Labyrinth on. It was sort of something that we started with Infrared, and we like retconned Labyrinth into the whole thing. And then on this new one, you know, like I said, we went through a lineup. Like Will, like we parted ways with Will before we were finished recording the album, and you know, we talked to him and asked if he'd like to stay on for the end of it, and he said yes. And so I think the album was written partially or rewritten as a kind of final statement in a lot of ways for him, and it also tied up a lot of the ideas that that we'd been working on in a way that's really, I guess, retrospective, thinking about our history as a band, thinking about yeah, those kinds of lyrical concepts he was working on. That's why we decided it was appropriate to name it Artificial Brain and to have this song Artificial Brain. And if you read the lyrics, they're littered with references to other song titles, lyrics from older albums, things like that.
So yeah, it just kind of ties everything together very nicely.
Yeah, that was the idea.
And a lot of people may not know, just because maybe it's not promoted quite as much. You guys actually have 2 small EPs available on Bandcamp as well. So obviously your early stuff before the first album. I assume those don't really tie in. They're just kind of their own beast.
Yeah, they're kind of their own thing, and we were honestly, I mean, I feel like we were still figuring out what we were. I don't think we quite knew. We're getting a little more self-assured by the second one of those. But we were messing with different production styles and techniques. Those, I think people have called those more polished sounding than our full lengths in some ways, like just production wise, not hopefully not musically.
No.
I think, the production, like the drums are a little bit more like modern metal sounding drums, and so the compositions, I think too, we're still figuring out our sound on those things. So it was more, getting our footing. I remember in the early days, we tried all kinds of, we had like, maybe some bands start out, I know some bands start out with a very clear idea of what they're going to be and what the vision is. But we were not that way. We had, songs with D beats, and we had like grind songs. We had all kinds of stuff, before we actually started getting things down. So yeah, those are, we're really proud of them. It's cool looking back at them, but and actually I should say Paolo's label P2 has put them both out, so they're available through him still. But those are more set apart from the rest of the full lengths.
Yeah, and speaking of labels, with the first album, if I'm not mistaken, you actually got brought on by Profound Lore.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like kind of going to not a massive label, obviously, but a pretty big underground label?
Yeah, it was really great. So we recorded the album ourselves. We paid for it ourselves, and then sent it to Chris at Profound Lore, and we said, hey, you want this? And he said yes. We had some friends who were on the label already, and so we had some ins, which always helps. But he was interested, and it, he's kind of hands off in some ways. He certainly promotes the records, and it's great just having our name on Profound Lore. People check out releases just because they're Profound Lore releases, so that's really handy. And that certainly got us a much higher profile and better distribution, all those things which are really invaluable. But also it provided those things while, like I said, he is kind of hands off, so there wasn't any pressure to tour. There wasn't any pressure for us to get things out in a timely fashion, which I think is important to us because, we all have jobs, for one thing. A lot of us are in other bands, and Dan used to be in Revocation. I'm in several bands at this point, and also we like taking our time and making sure we're doing proper quality control of the music and the art and all those kinds of things. So having a label that's supportive and high enough profile, but not like, bothering us to, you got to tour now, you got to put out an album now, that was really important to us.
Yeah. I mean, you may not be getting pushed to tour, but what is the upcoming plans for Artificial Brain?
Well, I don't know. I can't say. When is this podcast coming out?
I don't know yet.
Okay, well, so I have to be careful with my words then.
If you tell me what day it's not allowed to come out on, I can make sure it's after.
Okay, well, I actually don't quite know. Probably making an announcement next week.
Okay, I can hold it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great then. So we're going to be touring Europe with Devoid of Thought in July. So this will be our first European tour, which is amazing. We've been a band for over 10 years and we've not been over there yet. So we're extremely excited. And Devoid of Thought is a really killer Italian death metal band that is like, space influenced, I guess, also.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a neat fit thematically. We don't sound quite like them, but I think similar zone. So that's going to be mid to late July. We'll do like 3 weeks or so, and it's going to be an opportunity for us to play with our full-time full-time our drummer. We haven't played with our drummer Keith in quite a while because, as I said, he got married and moved to Denmark with his wife Amelie. So we've been playing in the States with a drummer named Evan Milowich, who is outstanding, like amazing musician, really great guy. But still, it's our drummer who's on the records is Keith.
Yeah.
And, we love him and love his playing as well. So it'll be really cool to have a reunion.
So by the time this episode or this video comes out, I mean, I'll know the answer already. But are you coming to the UK? Do you know?
Unfortunately, no.
Shit.
Yeah, we couldn't make it work this time. Hopefully, in the next year or two, will be. That's definitely a goal of ours.
Yeah.
We want to do the UK. We'd also like to do Australia, if any Australian people are listening who have money to pay for our plane tickets.
Who do you got to talk to about that one? Distant Tomb? I think that's like the one real band.
Guys, there's Distant Tomb and I guess we the Psychroptic guys. Are they Australian?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, is it wrong for me to say it's close enough?
I think either one of those countries would take great offense.
Probably. Whoops. I apologize. So you had aliens and cyborgs on the first album. Second album was the cyborg kind of Wall-E type, dealing with everything falling apart. The new album is kind of more of a landscape by the looks of it.
Yeah. So the new album, the picture on the cover, it's there's this machine that's being grown over with kind of grass and plants and things like that, and kind of the landscape suggests that there was some sort of civilization, that there was some like a lot of technology in this area that has fallen into the earth that's now being grown over. And the idea there was, well, first of all, the image was inspired. The painting's by Adam Burke, I should say, a terrific painter who also did an Infrared Horizon. So the image that inspired that was from a film by the Russian director Andrei Tarkovsky, a film called Stalker. So Stalker is an art film about. It's based on a book called Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, and it's this film about a kind of mysterious zone in I guess we could consider it Russia. It's an unnamed place, a mysterious zone where something has happened, and it's kind of cordoned off by the military. It's heavily protected, but there are rumors that there's a place, if you step inside, where all of your wishes, your deepest desire, will be granted. And so this area of the zone is like this. It's an area that was once, filled with technology, a modern place, but that's now been overgrown. And specifically, there's a scene where the camera pans over a field and you see this tank that's been, it's covered in like moss and vines and things like that. I always thought that was like a stunning image. It's one of my favorite movies. And so I thought that image would be appropriate to kind of riff off of, because we had talked about kind of nature taking back over, as in discussions about the mythology of the record. And also I think this record is kind of more, a little more harmonically lush, a little more melodic, slightly prettier, sadder record. So I thought that the cool color scheme and the greens and blues and misty vibe of that art would be a little more fitting with the music.
Yeah, it definitely takes a step back from that like really spacey dissonant sound and goes a bit more, like you said, towards the harmony and the melody and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think as a whole, it's definitely an album that a lot of people will be able to grasp a lot easier. Because I mean, Infrared Horizon, I love the album. It's a bit weird.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it is not for somebody new to death metal generally.
yeah. That one's definitely less pretty and more abrasive. I mean, it has its pretty moments, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
they're a little fewer and farther between, and the guitar sounds a little drier. It's just a more aggressive sounding record, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I think, you know, not to say this doesn't sound aggressive. I think the drums sound pretty aggressive on this one, but I think that our priority when mixing the record was more about, yeah, like getting that feeling of lushness and really having the harmony be the focus.
Yeah. And I definitely think a lot of people will be able to tell the difference in basically just how it's going to sound by the artwork alone, which, like you said, is kind of a big key to everything.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. I'm glad you feel that way.
And if nothing else, I hope somebody decides to watch the movie just solely
Oh
based
yeah,
off this.
yeah, yeah. I've definitely been like mentioning it in every. I've mentioned it in a few places, and I know I've talked about it on the Artificial Brain like, you know, accounts on social media.
So, what was the biggest, or I guess the most detrimental part of trying to record this all individually?
Well, I mean, timing was an issue. You know, um, it took a lot longer, of course, and that happened for a couple of reasons. I mean, partially just scheduling uh, was hard. When you're in the studio, it's, you know, you have to get everything done in a week or whatever, however much time you have, and then the second week is going to be mixing or something like that. I mean, that's roughly the timeline we worked with on the previous ones, and and so you just have to get what you can get and move on, and everyone comes in with a certain degree of preparation, and that's it. It's final. And I should also say, you have a lot of fun because you're with a bunch of your friends, you're with your bandmates in the studio, and you're goofing around, and you're there all day long in this like basement, and like, you know, it's fun. Your friends come, you know, Paolo comes in, does some vocals. It's kind of like not a party atmosphere because we're working, but like a little bit. Drinking like insane amounts of coffee to stay focused. So this experience was not as fun. It was hard timing wise. My personal experience recording bass was like, you know, I took a really long time recording the bass because I was rewriting the parts constantly. I'd record them and then I'd be like, I should do this instead, and change things around, which added a bunch of time. And so I'm really happy with my parts. And I think this is, you know, this happened with some of the guitars and overdubs as well. Like, I think that we got some compositional benefit from that, but it certainly lengthened the timeline and, you know, the amount of stress. Yeah.
So yeah, basically just being able to take your time, kind of let your mind wander, and made you take more time.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, at least you did have a little bit of the pleasure of not having to have it out. I mean, with everything shut down, you couldn't really tour anyways. It was just trying to take your time, and now we've hit that finish line.
Yeah, yeah. We knew that there was no, like, we wouldn't be able to tour in support of it for most of that time, even though the songs were basically done. We were like, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. What's another, you know, it was always like, what's another month for a year? Or, yeah.
But I mean, that's what all the governments were saying as well. What's another month of lockdown?
Sure, yeah, totally.
So I mean, it worked out. And now you've got the album coming. What are some of the songs that you're like really looking forward to playing?
Uh, I'm really excited about people hearing Insects and Android Eyes. That's the song with Luc Lemay on it. And I think that that's, uh, we thought about releasing that one early. We released Celestial Cyst and Parasite Signal. Those are the two early release tracks. And we did those two because, I mean, I think Celestial Cyst is a standout track and something a little different for us. And then Parasite Signal showed a different side of the record and something maybe a bit more like things we've done in the past, like a fast kind of brutal ripper song. So we thought about releasing Insects and Android Eyes as one of those, but maybe it was too similar to Celestial Cyst in its kind of expansiveness. So we decided not to do it, but I am really excited for people to hear it. One, because of Luke. He plays a really big part in that song. He's not just in the chorus or anything. He's like, featured very prominently in the beginning and the end of the song. Second, because I play some synths on that song, and that was new for me on this record. I'm really proud of that. And third, there's this really cool section towards the end where Keith, our drummer, is playing some real like different stuff for him. He's playing some kind of like fusion-y material that I think is interesting. I hope people like it. But I'm particularly proud of that song.
So, like you said, you have 2 singles out so far. Is there a third coming? We're about 3 weeks away from release.
No, it'll just be the album.
Just the 2, and then we're on to the album.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, great choice of 2 singles at the very least.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, no, definitely leaving a little bit more to want is going to get people in.
Yeah, that's the idea. We don't want to give away too much, especially because we've played there are probably another 3 or 4 songs off the record that we have played live already. So if people want to like scour the internet for videos, they'll probably find most of those. So we didn't want to give too much away.
Yeah. I mean, they're there. People can find them.
they're there. Yeah.
How much you can work out from somebody's cell phone quality video is a different story, but
yeah, totally. And they've also changed, I think, most of them a little bit, tiny bit. so yeah, a little bit different. But yeah, I think at this point it's just hopefully we've piqued people's interest enough that they'll buy the record. Yeah,
I'm sure they will. Last but not least, do you have any last notes you would like to leave to the fans listening?
I want to thank everyone for being so patient and excited about the record. I think we were a little unsure, to be honest, about after 5 years how much attention it was going to get, if people still really cared, and we were blown away by the reception to Celestial Cyst and the album announcement. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for how kind they've been and for sticking with us, and hopefully we'll be able to tour and bring this music around sometime soon. I know we're doing Europe. We're trying to get things together for the States. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sam. I very much appreciate it. And hopefully the UK before too long.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. We're trying our best. But thanks so much for having me, and it was great talking to you.